breaks clear. A world record is on here for Ballyregan Bob.
Ballyregan Bob, surely the greatest six-pen greyhound ever, and his trainer, George Curtis, a pure master of his craft. Welcome to this appreciation of the most famous greyhound partnership of all time. But what better place to be too, down at Hove, Bob's home track, on a lovely, lovely sunny morning. Well, throughout this programme, I shall be taking you through Bob's fantastic career, showing you many of his famous performances, and also talking to trainer George Curtis about some of the plans laid out for his record-breaking campaign. And one of those first questions was, how did he first come to hear about the great dog, Ballyregan Bob?
Cliff Kevin, he came on to me one day and said, he's got a dog in Ireland. You know, one of his friends trained his dog in Ireland, and he said he thinks he's going to be a good dog. He won this race at Tralee in 29:46. And he said, you know, he thinks that he's the best 38, you know, dog he's seen. So he said, would you take him? So I said, yeah, sure I will, you know. And dog arrived, and when he arrived over here, he was about 14 and a half months old. So we had to wait a couple of weeks before we could trial him.
He was too young to race him?
Too young to race in England, yeah. And I think in his first trial, he impressed me that one day, I think it was his second trial, I gave him a solo, and he went running 30-30. You know, which is fantastic when you're talking about he's just old enough to race. He's done a 30-30. And then all the years started flattening, and they all wanted to know, who he was and if he was for sale and all, you know. You get people straight away, like they want to get in on the bandwagon. But he was right from the start. The dog had, you know.
You preempted my next question, which was going to be, when did you realise it was something special? Obviously when he did that 30-30.
Well, yeah, when he did a 30-30, for me, like, you know, he had to be something special. And we started him off in a little open race, and I think I made a mistake. I made him a railer, because I saw him go down the back straight, and he went inside, you know, beautiful, and I thought, well, that's good enough for me. He'll be down as a railer. But I made a mistake, and it took me a few races before I realised I had made a mistake. And then I think we took him to, he got beat at Brighton, and he got beat a couple of times. Then I took him to Wimbledon, put him in track one. He almost went over the track. And I thought to myself then, you know, I've made a bloomer here. So I thought we'll have to swap at range. So we put him on the 8 side.
So that proves that even trainers as experienced as George Curtis can make mistakes. And Bob's early races were certainly nothing to write home about. But at the end of October, 11 weeks after his first trial, Bob registered his first win in the opening round of the Cosmic Orbit Young Puppies Trophy, beating the highly regarded Keeper Tom a length and a quarter. He also went on to win his semi-final and the final, and at last it seems he was starting to fulfil his enormous potential. 2 top-grade victories followed, and tongues began to wag, but this was nothing compared to what Bob was about to do at Hackney. Yes, at the tender age of 18 months, he notched up his first track record when landing a first-round heat of the 523-metre William Hill lead there. Amazingly, in the final, he lowered his own record by a further 2 lengths, and Bob had now won 8 races on the trot. But all of Curtis's and owner Cliff Caverne's plans were to change dramatically, and it caused an uproar when they announced that Ballyregan Bob would not be entered for the inaugural running of the Daily Mirror Derby at Wimbledon. I asked the trainer why.
I weighed the dog up at Brighton, and he ran with fair dogs, but he lacked the length to the corner. That's my opinion. He lacked the length, the pace to the corner. He got done on the corner at Arungay when he went for the Pall Mall. He was lucky to get away with it. They turned him round, and the marks on the track were there all the evening. I kept on looking at him. I thought, how lucky we were that he never broke his arm. So we're all choked. Bill Masters was there, Cliff, all a lot, and we were really upset, you know, because we got knocked pegged. But as I said, don't worry about getting knocked pegged. I said, we've got him to take home tonight, and we've got all, you know, the future in front of him. And I said to Cliff then, I said, this dog will do times I've never seen before. And it's not saying it, I did say it, because I believed it. Because I'll never see a dog run like him before. And, you know, I knew what he'd done at Hackney and everything, and I knew what he could do, and I thought the further he goes, the better he'll be. So anyway, we go off up to Wembley, getting ready for the blue ribbon, something like that. Again, got to the corner, can't make it, bang, the dog hits him, he knocked him over the arrow, he split his web on the arrow. So I kept on niggling at Cliff about, he's talking about the Derby. I said, Cliff, I said, you get hurt. I said, this dog's going to get hurt. I said, if you put him in fast dogs to the corner, he's going to get hurt. I said, you ought to forget it. He said, if you don't think he's good enough for the Derby, forget it, he said. And to be honest, he did. He said, if you don't think he's good enough for the Derby, forget it. Put him over the long distance.
And that's when it all started.
And that's when it all started. And it's not being like wise afterwards. I had a feeling with the dog. I've been watching long distance dogs all my life. To me, I am a long distance man. I'm not a Derby man. I always reckon myself to train long distance dogs. And this dog, even at Brighton when he won, he had 2 big races there, but each time he needed the 5:15 to win. You understand what I mean? If it had been 4:80, he'd have been beat at Brighton. So you're talking about what happens now you get the Derby, you're at Wimbledon, and you're getting all these fast dogs. There's no way he'd ever come round it. Oh, they see him run over 660 on Derby night, and everybody's saying, oh, he should have been in the Derby. But you're not running with Derby class dogs in 660s. You're running with Greyhounds, but you could lead. But you can't lead when you're running in the Derby class.
Bob was now to be aimed at 6-bend races, and seeing those tumbles at Haringey and Wembley, it was understandable why Curtis and Cavern had made their decision. Still, Bob's 4-bend record was impressive, with 13 wins from 19 races, starting favourite in every race and odds-on in no fewer than 10 of them. He twice broke the 5.23 metres record at Hackney, and his strike rate of 68% would surely have pleased any owner. Before we leave this chapter in his racing career, we must recall that some people refer to as Ballyregan Bob's best ever performance, which came in the Trainers' Championship at Walthamstow. Here he faced Ken Lindsell's local superstar, Ballyntubber 1, who was renowned for his blistering early pace and clever trackcraft. However, watch for Bob in Trap 6 give Ballyntubber 1 a 2-length lead and then a 2-length beating, the likes of which the Walthamstow crowd had never seen before. Now move on to the stage of his career which made him legendary, his journey into 6-bend racing. But that was also full of drama and heartache. In fact, Bob's debut as a stayer was in the heat of the Coombs Test at Walthamstow in late May 1985. He started at the almost unbackable price of 4-1 on favourite, and that was on the strength of a very fast trial at Walthamstow just a few days earlier. He ran from trap 6 in this race, and as you're about to see, the way he took care of his rivals was quite impressive. Bob's time of 39.40 was a new track record, almost unbelievable considering it was his first race over the Stayers trip. But he followed up with a 13-length victory in the semi-finals and then landed the final, shrugging off the inconvenience of track 3 with consummate ease. The next port of call was Wimbledon on Derby night, another very wet evening, and here Bob was to face his sternest test yet in front of his biggest audience of 12,000 fans. In the field for the Daily Mirror Punters Club plate was the St Ledger winner Jet Circle and the local favourite Lord Jim, but Bob didn't falter and he justified his odds of 4-1 on with another track record-breaking performance. Ballyregan Bob had now won 7 races in succession, and the bookmakers weren't going to take any chances with his odds. The dog's connectionists could not get rich by backing him, so the month before their main objective, the St Ledger of course at Wembley, they decided to send Bob to the valuable Charrington Essex Vars at Romford. But would the tight track and the short 575 metres trip find him out? So very nearly did in the first round. Guts and determination that Bob showed to peg back a proven stayer, having been at least 7 or 8 lengths off the pace, won him many more admirers, and his following grew even stronger after he won his semi-final by 11.5 lengths in a time just outside the track record. However, after the race, he was found to be slightly lame. With only 3 days to go before the final, it took a gargantuan effort to get him right, but as we can see now, Bob ignored his injury and won the final in fine style, equalling the track record. Next on the agenda was the St Ledger at Wembley, but George Curtis was taking absolutely no chances with Bob's injury. After the Vars final, he rested the dog for 3 weeks, but then took him to Wembley for a 490 metres trial, and the dog went very, very well indeed. It was back to Wembley again for a 655 metres trial, of course, over the St Ledger trip, and the dog was actually inside the track record, and surely back to his peak form. Here's a look at his first round heat, where his main rival was little brother Evening Light. The second round proved less exacting as Bob neared 100% fitness and broke the track record, scoring by a comfortable 8 lengths. He became the strongest anti-post favourite to win a classic in memory. Curtis's dream of a St Ledger victory seemed to be only 2 races away. However, nobody was prepared for what was to happen in the semi-final.
There's the line-up for the betting. Evening Light in Trap 1 is on offer at 14-1 there by Tom Power. In 2, Ben's Champion 11-4. Then they go Nursery Breeze has gone out from 50s. It was 50s a few minutes ago. It's out to 66 to 1. Skid Row Black is into 20s. Well, it's now gone to 25 to 1. They change it as we look at it. Ballyregan Bob, the 5 to 2 on favourite, and Bright Jester is on offer at 50. So we've got a very strong favourite here in Ballyregan Bob, and the nearest one to him in the betting is Ben's Champion, running in blue from Trap 2. That's gone to 11 to 4. The rest of them you can have 14 to 1 bar. The 6 being loaded up on the far side for the second semi-final. It'll be an interesting break here to see if Ben's Champion can get out, because Ben's Champion is usually fast away, and Ballyregan Bob doesn't mind if he's led into that first bend, but after that, well, he usually takes up the running. It's going to be a very interesting race. They're all in, and the buzz of excitement around the whole place. One last final check over there on the far side. Everything is okay. The hare is on its way. In 1 in red, Evening Light. In 2, Ben's Champion in blue. Nursery Breeze in white. Skid Row Black in 4. Ballyregan Bob in gold. And in the 6 box, Bright Jester. Here we go, up to the traps. Let's see the break. Away they go, and it's a pretty level break, but it is Bright Jester who's gone up there. Bright Jester from 6, but there's an awful lot of trouble. And the Ballyregan Bob was involved in that trouble and got knocked back a bit, but it's Evening Light who has gone on from Nursery Breeze. And it's Evening Light from Nursery Breeze in on the inside, being chased by Ballyregan Bob. The 6 of them are still in the race. The 6 dog got up, he was knocked out. But here goes Evening Light, and there's Ballyregan Bob chasing them down the back straight. It's Evening Light leading from Nursery Breeze, but Ballyregan Bob is now trying to get past the 2 of them, even though that's a strong wall. But he's coming around the outside, Ballyregan Bob, and he's up, and he's in front, and he still held the record. Ballyregan Bob wins his 13th.
Disaster had struck, because even though Bob had battled on bravely to keep his winning sequence intact, in the process he injured a tendon in the back of the wrist, and when he returned home, it had swollen like a balloon. Looking at the replay, it was obvious that Bob had suffered an injury when forced to leap over the prostrate Bright Jester at the first bend, but it shows the character and determination of the dog when you consider that he fought back from a 6 or 7 lengths deficit whilst obviously in some distress. No amount of treatment could get him ready in time for the final, and his withdrawal was surely the most bitter blow for both his owner and trainer, considering their unselfish decision not to run him in the Derby but to aim solely for the Ledger. But still that sequence was intact, and thoughts now turned towards bettering West Park Mustard's British record of 20 consecutive victories. The dog was rested for 6 weeks, and when he was reintroduced to the public, he broke track records on the turn at Brighton, Nottingham, Hackney and Wimbledon. Then followed a 20-length success at Sheffield, and for his 19th consecutive victory, Bob raced in truly atrocious conditions over 688 metres at Haringey. The scene was now set for the record-equalling attempt and the clash that the whole of the Greyhound world have been crying out to see. Because if one thing that Ballyregan Bob did not do in those early stages, he didn't really capture the public imagination. They were interested in one Greyhound and one Greyhound only, Skurlow Champ. This big black Greyhound made a habit of coming from impossible-looking positions. Skurlow became a household name, and the crowds turned up in their thousands to cheer him on. The Champ had also been on course to break West Park Mustard's record, but he fell at the 17th hurdle when pulling up under mysterious circumstances at Peterborough. So the big match was on, the public favourite versus the purest choice in the John Power Showdown over 710 metres at Wembley.
The atmosphere here inside Wembley is electric as we get ready for the race of the century, as it's called, the John Power Showdown. 4 greyhounds contesting the 710 metres distance here. And of course, in a few minutes' time, we should know the outcome, and the question will be answered that most greyhound supporters have been asking themselves for months. Which of the 4 is the best greyhound? Greyhound. There's no doubt that the betting market leading up to the race has been all about Skerlogue Champ and Ballyregan Bob, but one should never dismiss the chances of the other two greyhounds, Glenone Queen and Trackman. Let's take a look down there at the greyhounds as we see them. In trap one, Glenone Queen. This one came in as a late substitute into the race, but certainly is in on merit. Glenone Queen, a fawn bitch, whelped in August of 1983. Trainer Dickie Hawkes and owned by Mrs. Penny Sava. The last greyhound, incidentally, to inflict a defeat on Skerlogue Champ over 850 metres. In trap three we have Trackman. That's the black dog which was whelped in June of 1982. Trained here at the track by Adam Jackson and is owned by Eddie Sims. The black son of Sandman, well, he's broken many records, but unfortunately he's been out of luck when it's come to the big prizes along the way. That's the greyhound running from trap three, Trackman. And I can tell you that the greyhound is looking out there and he is seeing a sight that a lot of people didn't think they could see. Thousands, literally thousands of people here at Wembley. The biggest crowd many great followers have ever seen. But now we come to Ballyregan Bob, and as you can hear all around us, Ballyregan Bob has supporters, but he's also got a few boos along the way. Ballyregan Bob, he was whelped in May of 1983. He's trained by George Curtis down there at Brighton, and he's owned by Cliff Kevin. He's going for his 20th straight win. And as you can see, the supporters here at Wembley are about equally divided as to the chances of Ballyregan Bob and the other big one in the race. There's no doubt about it that Ballyregan Bob is very special. If he can win tonight, his 20th straight win, then he would be something extra special. He would equal, of course, the record set by West Park Mustard. She broke the record of 20 straight wins in 1974. But last week, Ballyregan Bob equaled the record set by Mick the Miller back in 1930 of going 19 straight wins. 3 of the victories, incidentally, that Ballyregan Bob has set up have been here at the track, so there's no problems about him. And of course, I think, speaking personally, that the 710 metres will suit him. In all, Ballyregan Bob has run 35 races and he's won on the 29 occasions. That's Ballyregan Bob. Now you can listen to the applause and the reception that the 6th dog, Skerlogue Champ, gets. Skerlogue Champ, whelped in July of 1982, owned and trained by Ken Peckham, is of course the enigma of the sport, for there's no other person around can remember seeing a greyhound like this one. The one you're looking at the moment, Skerlogue Champ. He's usually trailing behind everything else out of the traps. I did say in an earlier commentary one night that he fell out of the traps, but by Jove does he go at the end. He finds a 5th gear and he goes home. He's won 26 of his last 28 races. His full record is from 49 races. Skerlogue Champ has been victorious on 40 occasions. 40 wins from 49 races. The crowd here at Wembley, very like a cup final crowd. You have Skerlogue Champ having his supporters and Ballyregan Bob having one section. I don't know whether they're equally divided. I think they're all together down there. But every one of them here tonight with scarves and rosettes, Ballyregan Bob rosettes and Skerlogue Champ. And they're right around me at the moment looking down. This greyhound is their hero, and that's the reception he gets. That's Skerlogue Champ. And as you can see, this tremendous crowd that we have here at Wembley, it's the biggest crowd that quite a lot of people can remember, and some of them go back to greyhound racing just after the war. They can remember the great years of greyhound racing when thousands upon thousands of people used to come greyhound racing. In recent times, unfortunately, people have stayed away, but they're back tonight to see this great meeting between 4 great greyhounds. There must be at least 20,000-25,000 people. Not many people have seen that for just a great greyhound night. We have had 20,000, of course, for the derby, the Mirror Derby itself at Wimbledon. But here at Wembley, we have a big crowd for what is a great night of greyhound racing. The John Power Showdown over 710 metres, with the winner taking £12,000 and a presentation jacket, and second prize of £3,000. There's a close-up of John Power's betting board at the moment. Glenowend Queen is 25s, Trackman is on offer at 10-1. Ballyregan Bob is the 9-4 on favourite, and you can get 2-1 on the chances of Skurlogue Champ. 9-4 on Ballyregan Bob to make it 20 wins, straight wins for the Greyhound from Brighton. John Power down there, beaming all over, because he and brother Tom were the inspiration behind this whole meeting of getting the champs together. That's Ballyregan Bob and Skurlogue, as well as Glenowend Queen and Trackman. And they must be very, very pleased. I think everyone in greyhound racing will be very pleased seeing the big crowd that we have here at Wembley tonight. So the greyhounds over on the far side of the track being got ready to put into traps, and in goes the number 1 Glenowend Queen. She's gone into 1 wearing the red. Then in white in goes Trackman wearing the black jacket, Ballyregan Bob, and the last to go in wearing the striped jacket will be Skurlogue Champ, and there goes Skurlogue Champ in. 710 metres, the John Power Showdown. The clash of the track between Glenowend Queen, Trackman, Ballyregan Bob and Skurlogue Champ. They're in traps for the start of this race of the century, as it was called. Is it going to be Ballyregan Bob getting away first? Ballyregan Bob needs to hit the box and get away. And the hare is already on its way. 6 bends of the track here at Wembley for the showdown. Who's going to get the break? The hare is at the traps and they're away. And it's the 4 dogs. Ballyregan Bob got a flyer of a start, and Skurlogue, as usual, is left at the back. But don't worry too much about that. He's about 20 lengths behind. Can Skurlogue come from there? But it's Ballyregan Bob. But he's finding it tough at the moment to get rid of Glenowend Queen. She's running well on the inside. But Ballyregan Bob is away and clear. And Skurlogue Champ has pulled up. Skurlogue Champ is out of the race. He's pulled up. And unfortunately, he's going back the other way. If they don't stop Skurlogue Champ, he is going to... They have captured Skurlogue Champ, and they have taken him off the track. In the meantime, Ballyregan Bob is away and clear. Skurlogue Champ was injured, but the crowd are booing around the place, and at the moment it's Ballyregan Bob is going to come up to the line, a decent winner. Ballyregan Bob wins it. It's tight between the other two, but that was a disaster of a race, because Skurlogue Champ just covered about 400 metres, and after that the dog went lame. They're taking him away, as you can see down there. He doesn't look well, Skurlogue Champ. He came off the second bend and he just didn't run on. It's automatic for Skurlogue Champ to be away behind, as I was saying in commentary, to be left behind about 20 metres at the start, but not that far. And suddenly, as he got down the straight here in front of the grandstands, in front of the thousands of people, he suddenly started to pull up. And it looks to me as if Skurlogue Champ's old injury of a shoulder has gone again. But the winner of the showdown, well, in fact, it wasn't a showdown in the end. It went to Ballyregan Bob. So the race that's been built up as the great race has died like a damn squib here at Wembley in front of one of the biggest crowds we have for years.
So Ballyregan Bob equals West Park Musters' 20 consecutive victories, and in the process betters Wembley's 710 metres track record. As for Skurlogue Champ, he's pronounced lame. So then the show moves back here to Hove, where Bob attempts to make the record his own property. He takes on a very strong field indeed, but once again he runs a marvellous race. as you can see, we've now moved into the inside area at Hove Stadium, in fact into one of the bar areas, and after Ballyregan Bob broke West Park Mustard's British record and raced into the hearts of thousands of racegoers in this country and also further afield, the track here at Hove actually named this bar after the dog. At this stage, of course, all thoughts turn to that elusive world record of 31 set by the American dog Joe Dump. But before they set out on that venture, trainer George Curtis decided to give the dog a rest, or should I say break, because it was at this stage that Bob was to practice the finer arts of stud work. And in fact, so busy, or so much in demand was he, that he actually mated 16 pitches. But sadly, all too soon for Bob, he was put back in training and continued his winning sequence here at Hove when winning an open race on the Regency final night over 695 metres. Well, Bob, as it were, was then put on the road, travelling at tracks all over the country where he broke track records, turnover records, tote records, indeed, wherever Ballyregan Bob went, so too did records. At this stage, he increased his sequence to 27 straight victories, but after the last of those up at Bluff Park, Newcastle, he was found to have aggravated an old wrist injury, and this caused some concern as to whether the dog would be fit enough to go for the record. But Bob had battled back in the past, and so it was decided to let him compete in his next engagement, the Racing Post International at Wimbledon. Bob's 5 3/4 lengths victory was impressive enough, but he came off the track hobbling. It was obvious that the wrist injury was troubling him severely. It was almost 6 months before Bob was seen racing again, a period which meant that he missed the St. Medgar at Wembley. But trainer George Curtis was taking absolutely no risks with the dog and actually trialled him 4 times before he made him come back in a race. And when he did decide for that comeback race, it was here at Hove in a top grade event, and he won it in style. And that took him, of course, to within just 3 races of Joe Dump's world record of 31 successive wins. Haringey was the venue for his next 2 races. He never let his London fans down. So the scene was all set for Ballyregan Bob's attempt on the world record, and the race was staged here at his home track, Hove. It was a wet night in December 1986. It was pouring of rain, but the track was absolutely packed to capacity. They were actually queuing outside an hour before the meeting was due to start. The world's media, who had been covering the dog's progress throughout his career, were here in their hundreds, and the race was also shown live on NBC Network in America. It was a marvellous, marvellous night, and Ballyregan Bob never let them down.
As you can see, an enormous crowd here at Hove Track to see the challenge of Ballyregan Bob. Can the great dog do it? He has scored 31 consecutive wins tonight. Well, it's the night of destiny for Ballyregan Bob and all his supporters, because in his great run of 31 wins, he has gathered supporters. They're here tonight to see if he can make it 32 straight wins and set a new world record.
Was trained by Gunnar Smith at Hove and bred by Mr. G. Harris at Pointings, which is just across the dock.
And you can see he's taking it all in. Ballyregan Bob just being checked at the moment. He's taking it all in, but after 48 races, he knows what it's all about.
Now Ballyregan Bob apart on a very fast track. She's the best of the Brighton.
There are the other greyhounds parading in front of the grandstands. Packed grandstands. So all the anxious moments are over for everyone, all the connections of the 6 greyhounds that take part in the World Challenge race here at Brighton. The Hove track packed to capacity. I've never seen it so full, and they're here to see one greyhound. That's Ballyregan Bob. 31 straight wins behind him. Can he set a new world record tonight and land this challenge? 695 meters. The prize money doesn't matter, according to owner Cliff Kevin and trainer George Curtis. It's all about achieving a great record for Britain. The record formerly held by Joe Dump in America, 31 straight wins. All the talking is over. It's now up to this great greyhound, Ballyregan Bob. They're in traps on the far side. In 1, Low Sail. In 2, Calamity Kelly. In 3, Burnt Oak Tony. In 4, Swift Breeze. In 5, Queen's Comet. And in 6, Ballyregan Bob. And the hare on its way. And the crowd already roaring for Ballyregan Bob. The hare down to the traps. Let's see what sort of a break he gets. And they're away, and Bob has got a good start on the outside, but not as good as the dog in the number 2 box. And it's Calamity Kelly who leads into that bend. But here comes the 5 dog, and also Ballyregan Bob starts to make up ground on the outside. It's the 5 dog leads. Queen's Comet leads into that bend, but Ballyregan Bob is up there challenging. Queen's Comet leads Ballyregan Bob. The rest of them are struggling a little bit at the back, and there goes Ballyregan Bob down the far side. The record is on. The 4 dog is closing up. Swift Breeze is making a challenge, but Ballyregan Bob is gone. He's 5, 6, 7 lengths clear. A world record is on here for Ballyregan Bob. Around the final bend, up to the line. He's going to win it and create a new world record. 32 straight wins for a great dog. He's done it. He's done it. Ballyregan Bob, the greatest dog we've ever seen, has achieved the 32nd straight win. And what a dog, and what a reception he's got. The crowd down here wild with excitement after seeing the greatest performance from the greatest dog we've seen in this country for, well, a long, long time. Maybe ever since Mick the Miller way back in the 30s. Ballyregan Bob has achieved the world record, 32 straight wins.
It's a dream come true. I've never seen a dog like him in my life, and I was watching dogs before the war, since the war and after the war, and I've seen all the greats, but there's never been a better six-bender than this fella, and I don't care. Anybody can argue as long as they like. They won't convince me anything different.
So the dream was realised, all the pressure was off, and Ballyregan Bob became the first greyhound ever to grace the front covers of the national newspapers, usually reserved for scandal or disasters. I asked George what it meant to him to bow out on such a high note.
Well, I can't put it in words, because something I can't, I could never thought I could ever do. I mean, I never thought I'd ever get a greyhound, that good. And I can't really tell you what it meant to me, because I haven't even got over it yet. When I look back on it, it's still, it's unbelievable what he did, because he was probably the greatest greyhound. He was the greatest greyhound I've ever seen over 7. No doubt about it. But he could also run he had the pace over the short, to do these times, and therefore when he went over the distance, he's always getting clear, probably like by the 3rd or 4th bend, and from then on he went on. But to do what he did, I say I still haven't got over it yet. I just can't believe what he did.
Well, after he broke the world record, owner Cliff Cavern decided to retire the dog to stud, rather wisely in my opinion. He did say at the time that Ballyregan Bob would spend the rest of his days with his trainer George Curtis. At the time also there was immense pressure from America, with offers of some of them in excess of £100,000 for the dog to go and stand at stud in the States. But all along, Cavern insisted that the British breeders should be given the first shot at Ballyregan Bob, and for a while he was kept to his word and the dog stayed here. But the trouble was that Ballyregan Bob as a sire was never really a big hit. Great things were expected of his offspring, but it never really materialised. And really, in a way, Ballyregan Bob, as a sire at least, became a victim of his own all-conquering success on the track. I asked trainer George Curtis what he thought of Kevin's decision to eventually send the dog to stud to America.
Well, I'm very sad, naturally, I'd have loved it, truthfully, I'd have loved to have seen him stay over here, and so when my old fella packed up, I'd have had him here, I would have liked to look after him for the rest of his life, but, this is something that Cliff had to do, and I had no say in it, so I can't really say any more. But I'm sorry, I'm sorry to see your dog go,
We had about 100 bitches over here. I've always thought that had the dog gone to Ireland, where the vast majority of greyhound breeding takes place, that he would have been far more popular and probably would have thrown, having attracted, can I say, and run the risk of incurring the wrath of all the English breeders, but perhaps being mated with the best bitches available in Ireland. He would perhaps have thrown more than he has.
Well, I might be honest, all my life, I've always thought it was a fluke with stud dogs. I've always honestly, because the best dogs don't necessarily mean that they're going to be a good stud dog. as I've said to you early on, like, you know, if you get dogs that push the board or go to Niagara and throw in the Scossett, I mean, you've got 3 Derby winners in the family and he couldn't throw nothing. I mean, Ballyregan Tennis was probably one of the greatest greyhounds ever. Paul's Fun. They're all brilliant dogs. But you only got the couple like Pilgar Wonder and Clonalby Pride. They're the only ones that get in the stud book, you know. Probably go back a bit further than that, Cool Kill Chieftain and all them. But very, very few turn out to be good stud dogs. You know, don't follow. And like, Idea, truthfully, Idea was one of the greatest stud dogs ever. Very fast dog. But he didn't win the Derby, you know. He came over to win it and he didn't win it. But he turned out the greatest stud dog. Monday champion, I see him get beat at Brighton by Ballyregan Cedar, and Ballyregan Cedar had a broken arm. And I see him beat Monday champion at Brighton. Monday champion went back, he won the greatest stud dogs ever. I don't come into it.
So what you're saying is that simply because you're brilliant on the track doesn't necessarily guarantee success at
I
stud.
guarantee it doesn't mean it.
There's one final question on Bob. He's now in America.
Yeah.
We're not soothsayers, and it's not perhaps fair to ask you, but you think you'll ever see him back in the country?
Be honest, I don't. Cliff said he'd come back, but I think you're talking about a long, long time. 2 years and then 6 months quarantine. The old dog's going to be knocking on a bit. Truthfully, I don't think he'll come back. But sad to say, but you know, that's my opinion.
Ballyregan Bob left the country on October the 6th, 1989. Television crews witnessed him arriving at Gatwick and then tucking into his favourite chocolate treat, a Kit Kat. However, it was sad to see him loaded into a crate, where he would have to spend the next few hours before he arrived at his new home on the other side of the Atlantic. I asked owner Cliff Cavern if he was sad to see him go.
Oh, I'm not the only one that's sad. There's quite a few punters and trainers. I think everyone in the dog world is sad to see the dog go.
But the big question was, would he be back?
Oh, he'll probably be coming back in about 2 years. He'll definitely be coming back.
Ballyregan Bob, what can you say of him? He had pace, he had class, he had determination, guts, and most of all, charisma. He had the ability to avoid trouble on the bends, he had fabulous acceleration, and he could stay 4 bends, 6 bends, and probably 8 bends if they ever tried it. A marvellous, marvellous greyhound, and although it's a well-hackneyed phrase, I know, I'm not ashamed to use it, he really was a Rolls Royce of a greyhound. Up until this stage, he's the best I have ever seen, and when I turn away, I should think I'll look back on a long career in greyhound racing and think, well, I never saw one better than the magnificent Ballyregan Bob. Finally, the last word has to go to trainer George Curtis when I asked him what, in his opinion, was the best race that Ballyregan Bob ever ran.
I think Walthamstow in the Trainers' Championship, when he beat Ballintubber won, because that Ballintubber won at the time was the track champion, and the distance was a little bit short for us, and I thought that the way he ran, I mean, they both got it together. The other dog was a better tracker, he took a couple of lengths of us on the bend, and the crowd there went mad when he went down the back straight, and he collared him coming around the fourth, and he ran up the home straight. I think he beat him about a length and a half, did about 28.67, something like that. I mean, Kenny Lindsay will come up to me and he said that's one of the best races I've ever seen. And I think that was his best and his hardest race.